Who would have imagined that a superpower destined to shape the future of the world would enter World War II almost without tanks? In 1941, the U.S. Army's mere 400 tanks were nothing more than a grain of sand against the massive armored forces turning the continent into a living hell. But the real question was this: could such a small beginning ignite the spark of the greatest armored explosion in history? Even American generals hadn't fully grasped the importance of tanks at the time. While Blitzkrieg was tearing Europe apart, the United States still saw tanks as secondary support units. Training grounds were inadequate, crews were inexperienced, and officials in Washington had no idea that a massive storm was approaching. Yet something hidden was happening. Deep inside America's industrial giants, a plan no one knew about was slowly coming to life. In Detroit's factories, secret closed-door meetings between automakers and the military had begun. Perhaps someone was waiting for America to wake up. And when that moment finally came, the silence of those 400 tanks would erupt into the greatest steel flood the world had ever seen. But how? How could such a tidal wave rise in such a short time? In 1942, America made a decision: we're waking up. This wasn't just a political shift, it was the beginning of the greatest industrial surge the world had ever seen. Ford, General Motors, Chrysler, within weeks, they all embraced a single mission: turn minutes into steel, and turn steel into tanks. What makes it even more astonishing is this: at the start of the war, the United States could barely produce a few hundred tanks a year. Yet within months, it would transform into a production monster capable of building hundreds of armored vehicles every single day. The chimneys of Detroit's massive factories roared non-stop, the sparks of welding torches echoed through the night like America's anthem of steel awakening. But how did ordinary automobile assembly lines become tank factories in just a matter of weeks? What secret modifications did engineers implement? And where did the mind-bending production speed of Ford's legendary Willow Run plant come from, so fast that even time itself seemed irrelevant? These questions marked the most critical turning point in U.S. military history. Because soon, this unstoppable industrial beast would give birth to the steel giant that changed the course of the war, the M4 Sherman. But was the Sherman truly a powerful tank? Or was there an entirely different plan behind it? The world's most produced tank, the M4 Sherman, was it truly the star of the war, or merely a weak machine born out of necessity? This is where the controversy begins. Compared to the German Panther and Tiger tanks, the Sherman's armor was almost paper-thin. When a Sherman crew faced a Tiger, they were often living the final seconds of the encounter. So why, then, did America insist on producing thousands of Shermans? Because the United States planned to change the outcome of the war not through the power of a single tank, but through numbers, speed, and an unstoppable river of steel. While Germany needed days or even weeks to replace a single destroyed tank, America could produce another one within minutes. And that's the hidden truth: the Sherman was never designed to be the strongest tank. It was designed to be the fastest multiplying tank ever built. That gave the US an invisible advantage on the battlefield. A Tiger could destroy one Sherman. But the moment 10 more rolled toward it, the game changed completely. And America's armored force kept growing, bigger every single day. The real question was: how far would this number go? As the war neared its end, America had achieved the greatest military production miracle in history, a total of roughly 108,000 tanks and armored vehicles. This number was more than twice what Germany produced throughout the entire war, and powerful enough to rival even the Soviet output. But how did a nation that started with only 400 tanks reach 108,000 in just a few years? Because the United States didn't simply activate its factories, it transformed the war into an economic miracle. Women stepped onto assembly lines, engineers eliminated the concept of shifts, and the government built a nationwide production ecosystem that militarized the entire economy. The daily production numbers still defy belief: during certain periods, the US was capable of producing over 500 armored vehicles in a single day. This was one of the key forces that reshaped the outcome of the war on the battlefield. But the real question is the one almost no one asks. These tanks, built fast, built in massive numbers, but weaker in armor than their German rivals, how many of them actually survived when the war ended? And that leads us to the least known, and most surprising chapter of the entire story. When the war finally ended, the massive American flood of steel began to slow. A total of 108,000 tanks and armored vehicles had been produced, yet most of them had been destroyed on the front lines, scrapped, or rendered unusable by harsh battlefield conditions. The majority had been built purely for tactical numerical superiority, and once the war was over, maintaining such an enormous armored force no longer made sense. The United States moved into rapid demobilization. Thousands of tanks were pulled into storage, some were shipped off to allied nations, others were abandoned to rust on remote Pacific islands. In the end, the number of tanks left in active service was far smaller than anyone expected, roughly 10,000 to 12,000. Think about that. From an army of 108,000 machines of steel, only about 10,000 remained. And yet even that was enough, standing at the doorway of the Cold War, to crown the United States as the new armored superpower of the world. And here lies the truth. America entered the war with 400 tanks, but it ended the war with the greatest tank-building knowledge in history, the most advanced industrial network ever created, and an experience that would shape the future of global warfare. This wasn't just the story of an armor triumph. It was the story of a nation rebuilding itself inside a war.